Hey everyone, it's LS, and this video is going to be just like the Kaisa video in that I am bringing you a super broken champion. It's Shen inside of the jungle. If you saw my Twitter or you saw the competitive jungle tier list that Selfmade and some other junglers like Griffin from T1 and others actually contributed to, then a lot of people sort of scratched their heads at Shen in the jungle. But then even after more diving into it, I realized actually Shen is even better than we had him placed on that list, and this champion is just absolutely broken. You're wondering why you would end up picking Shen inside of the jungle. One, he invalidates a lot of the really popular on-hit champions right now. Champions that are dependent on getting their auto attacks in, close quarter combat, etc. Shen's just really good against them because of his taunt and because of his W, and he has really good base stats for just dueling against them, combating them, etc. And this extends even outside of the jungle, say against Vi, Xin Zhao, Viego, these types of champions. He's also good against a lot of the really popular AD carries. In addition to that, Shen has flex potency. And in addition to his flex potency, he also is really good at enabling hyper carries. And that is really where this build and this play is really going to shine. So first, we're going to end up talking about his runes. This is the most basic setup. You might have seen some deliberation on Twitter between myself and some other Shen mains. I ended up going with Halo Blades, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collector in solo queue, Zombie Ward in competitive, and then Relentless Hunter in both solo queue or competitive depending on team comps, or Ultimate Hunter, but I really don't think that Ultimate Hunter is that necessary, and I'll explain why later. Magical Boots is going to be from the Inspiration Tree, followed by Cosmic Insight, so that you just get all that goodness for the CDR. For the shards, you're going to go with the Attack Speed Shard, you're going to go with the Movement Speed Shard, because Shen actually has really high base MS. He has 340, he's all about kiting after he taunts you, getting into position, his movement, using his Qs, etc., and that really helps out with that. And last but not least is the Scaling HP Shard. I do think that there's also even potency to go something like Spellbook, potentially, in order to get access to Exhaust or Heal, and even Ignite, I guess. Or you can even use Ghost in order to just run up on people and end up using E. The other reason that I recommended the runes that I did is because 1410 is just on the horizon, and this rune setup is just going to be good, whereas PTA is going away. But a lot of things do just open up possibilities here. So if you did go into the Inspiration Tree primary, you can get access to Glacial, or you can end up getting access to Spellbook. Some other rune setups that you might actually be able to do is going, say, Guardian or Aftershock inside of the jungle for the Resolve tree. And for some people that are curious about PTA, PTA is just not as good as Halo Blades. The reason being that the Domination Tree is just way too valuable. Shen really wants to use all 4 rows in the Domination Tree. The Precision Tree, he's only really getting sometimes value out of Triumph, and then everything else is sort of useless. You really want to guarantee that you have the movement speed from Relentless in order to traverse the map, or you get access to Ultimate Hunter, but again, I still don't think that it's actually that important, but I do want to highlight that maybe it can have competitive viability. Reason being is that teamfights typically operate around a 90 to 120 second cycle. And because of that, that means that Shen is actually almost always going to have his ultimate available because he's stacking and spamming so much ability haste. Whereas in top lane, you don't get that much ability haste because of the items that top lane Shen ends up buying is very different from this supportive utility Shen. Because of all of the extra ability haste, your ultimate is up that much more often, thus you don't have as much of a dependence on Ultimate Hunter. The build is going to end up being Bombies as your first item. This really helps out his clear. After Bombies, what you're going to do is at all costs you finish Redemption. Even if you somehow got Magical Boots early and you want to finish those Ionian Boots, don't do it. Get the Redemption. It's really important for when your ultimate is still on cooldown, you're still able to provide value to your teammates via the Redemption active because its range is just so big. This allows Shen to continue power farming while still adding influence to lanes and just showing up with a massive heal boost and even a lot of damage depending on if your ally gets ganked or if your ally's going for lethal. After Redemption, what you're going to do is you're going to go Solari, and then there's this one, which I've never actually talked about before on social or even on stream, but it is Moonstone Renewer. Let's actually talk about why. First off, Shen's AP ratios are actually quite good. He gets 4.5% to 6% per 100 AP max HP scaling on his Q, which is quite a lot of damage. In addition to that, his R has a 135 to 216% AP ratio, which is really massive, and his passive has a shield, and Moonstone also comes with flat HP, which means that even Shen's E is actually starting to get benefit from this. There is some stuff that people don't know about Moonstone. Moonstone can actually allow you to R 2 allies at once with Shen Stand United. This is really broken. Or it allows you to apply a super R to an ally, enhancing all of the things that Shen really wants to do when he shows up to the fights. This makes playing around Shen that much more difficult, and it makes bot lane dive plays a lot scarier because it means the ADC and the support are both getting a stand united on their plays, especially if the enemies are the ones trying to dive your teammates. The other thing about Moonstone is it just amplifies all the other items that Shen is trying to get. It amplifies the Redemption, it amplifies the Solari, everything that you could possibly want, this item is doing for Shen. So that's the reason that Moonstone really wants to be the second or third item. I know that I haven't debuted that on stream or really talked about it anywhere. I wanted to save it for the video. For his boots, you're going to want to make sure to go Ionian boots as soon as you can after finishing Redemption before powering into any other item. That'll just help with the movement speed and getting everything on lower cooldown so that you have more uptime on everything. Now, after you have the Solari and you have the Moonstone with the Redemption, it comes time for the situational last items. Personally, Mikhail's is really good just because of the increased heal and shield power in addition to the active. There's also Knight's Vow, which is really good for protecting hypers, or if you just have a bruiser that is really difficult to kill. The thing is that Shen's final few items are really up to just the way that the game is going and what the team comps are, but all the items that you're seeing on the screen are his potential last items, depending on various game states. You're going to end up wanting to go that Knight's Vow if you just really need to ensure that one person needs to just survive longer. You're going to end up going Mikhail's if the enemy team is really dependent on a pick and they might only have one or two things that can really set that up for them. Don't forget that you can sell bombies later on in the game when trying to purchase your third or fourth item because it's not really doing anything for your clear at that point anymore. You don't want to hold on to this item and actually complete it into Sunfire because it's just not really doing a whole bunch. Now, there is the potential to do some sort of a carry build with Sundered Sky and these other type of items like Titanic and stuff. The problem with that is those items are way more expensive, which sort of defeats some of the value that this setup is going to do. Because all of the items are so cheap, Shen is essentially functioning on a lower economy than other junglers. But he's able to actually keep up with a lot of the power farmers, which makes it really scary. He really gets the ball rolling, and because his items synergize so well with his kit and add so much power to it, it really feels very suffocating if Shen starts to get ahead, but he's always able to provide value even in the event that he's behind, just because of the synergy that he has with these items and how strong his base kit is. Shen does have a bit of micromanagement going on inside of his clear. His Q lasts for 8 seconds after he presses it, but the cooldown actually starts for it immediately while he holds the charges. This means that while you're kiting between camps, you want to press Shen's Q typically about 5 to 6 seconds right before arriving to the camp. This will give you 3 charges of Q and it'll start your Q cooldown. This will end up allowing you to use 6 Qs effectively on a camp, dramatically increasing your clear speed. This combined with E allows him to traverse the jungle really fast and keep up even with some of the fastest junglers inside of the game. A lot of people typically thought that Shen was actually a slow jungler, but this isn't really the case. Another thing that obviously is quite good to note is his W and blocking the auto attacks. This is also really good for tanking camps. You can also use the W even against Baron and Dragon, so don't forget about that when doing things. One thing that you do want to keep a mental note of, however, is when you feel like you might have to R soon, or if you can notice that your teammates are fighting, don't use E while just randomly traveling through the jungle. E can be really good in the early clears for Shen. When his 6 isn't available, or even when your ultimate's down, feel free to use E to just move around the map faster, get onto the camps that much sooner, etc. But when your ultimate's up and it needs to be on standby, stop using E onto camps unless you're absolutely certain that your E doesn't need to be up in the event that you need to press R, because you don't want to end up R'ing and then not have your E available as soon as you come out of the stand united. The other power about Shen inside of competitive is if he is early rotated, people have to respect that he could just end up going top or he could go support. And that really skews and pinches a lot of options that someone might actually try to pick in the event that Shen would just pivot and end up going into that lane. This can add a lot of really crazy draft dynamic because he's so flexible in 3 different ways. Now, obviously, Shen is not going to be amazing against every single jungler, but the beauty of him is that because he slots in with a lot of different team compositions, it doesn't even necessarily matter if he's outright getting countered, if his purpose is to just enable something else. So League isn't a 1v1 game, and because of how well he slots into so many different kinds of 5v5s, whether it be diving in on the opponents or just protecting your hyper carry or something, it opens up a lot of viable playstyles for him, and it lets him be really flexible in draft, even outside of his ability to flex into other lanes. So go ahead and start shending help. Also, shout out to Tarzan, the jungle god, also seemingly being inspired potentially by the Shen jungle. I have so much respect for this person as a jungler. At one point, this was the best jungler in the world, and it's actually crazy to see an interaction like this. I'm just excited to see some Shen now. You guys liked videos like this, and you liked, obviously, the Kaisa one. I am starting to consider maybe just making longer form videos like this more sort of full-time with the editor Tuv, who has been the GOAT editor on the channel now for several years. You guys always talk about his editing skills and obviously how quickly he's able to put together videos and just dish out videos immediately after streams end. It's something that him and I have talked about, and we are pondering right now making stuff like this sort of continuously for just lots of various things that don't necessarily have videos like this dedicated to them. So let us know, obviously, in the comments below, and it's something that is maybe just on the horizon. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoy watching the rest of MSI. Maybe Shen will end up appearing. And if not, he is already dominating solo queues, and if you don't believe me, just check out the win rate of Shen in the high MMRs, because streamers, random players, pro players, they're all starting to pick him up, and I just think it's amazing.